Howdy, and welcome to the MrMaple Show. I'm Matt. Now you may not know this, but there are lots of Japanese maples that are selected for their more columnar characteristics. Now, columnar trees are great because they give us vertical interest in the landscape when we might be running out of space, so it's a great way to extend that. Smaller trees and columnar trees are definitely the way of the future for gardeners, especially Japanese maple gardeners, because we want a lot of plants, and this gives us the ability to have them in that more narrow footprint. Now, today we're going to be talking about my top 5 Japanese maples for columnar habits. Now, columnar trees are important because not only do they give us that smaller footprint that the dwarfer trees give us, but they give us that vertical interest. They bring the eye in, they make the gardening room larger, they extend the eye up, and it makes the whole place feel bigger. You get that cathedral effect with columnar plants, and columnar Japanese maples are a great way to do that. I've even seen people using some of these columnar trees we're going to talk about today in an English garden as columns, making them a formal entranceway into their garden. I absolutely love it. I love how you can get creative with these, and I love how they bring the eye in, they draw the eye. Columnar plants can really take you through the garden and create different moods and feels. So today we're going to talk about my top 5 columnar Japanese maples. Let's get into it with number 5. We've got Acer palmatum, Jerry Schwarz. Now you might be surprised to find out that Jerry Schwarz is a more narrow selection. This was a selection by Red Maple Nurseries, selected and named for Billy Schwartz's mother. Amazing plant. This one has pinks and yellows in the early spring. But one of the cool things about this dwarf compact broom is that it actually has a more narrow columnar footprint in the landscape. Typically a 5 to 6 foot tree is only about 3 to 4 feet wide, giving it a more shorter, narrow approach. Great orangey reds in the fall as well. Jerry Schwarz is a columnar plant that looks great in a container or patio planter because you can really bring that narrow approach to the small landscape. All right, guys, coming in here at number 4, I've got Acer palmatum Skeers Broom. Now, Skeers Broom is a narrow red that's going to give you some beautiful deep reds in the landscape, excellent on the sun tolerance. All the trees we're talking about here today are going to work zones 5 through 9, but this one can handle a good bit of sun in that zone 8 setting. Looks great in a container when younger, but what this one's great for is a 15-foot tall tree isn't much more than about 4 to 5 feet wide, so you get a very narrow footprint there. A little bit denser than Twombly's Red Sentinel, so a little bit wider than Twombly's Red Sentinel, but still fits into that narrow category. This one's going to be a bold cherry red in the fall, so you get some great fall color on this one as well. That short and center node gives the overall tree a bubbly, dense appearance. I really love this one for its durability. I've seen this growing in full sun in Atlanta, Georgia, and just high heat settings. If you're considering a columnar narrow tree and you want something a slightly wider for maybe even a screening purpose, Skeers Broom is a perfect choice. All right, guys, coming in here at number 3, I've got a mouthful of a tree. At number 3, we've got Acer pseudosanum subspecies Takasamense. Sometimes we refer to this one as the Oolong Do Island maple. This is an amazing columnar species. So this is a species of Japanese maple, fits in there with the Japanese maple category. And this one's naturally more narrow. So you get a great narrow footprint. One of my favorite trees for a species. Not only is it fun to stump people on how to say it, but it's an amazing plant. It has large, almost Acer japonicum style foliage, kind of reminiscent of that. Being a pseudosanum, it's more cold tolerant than most. This one's heat tolerant, but the overall nature of this plant is a narrow footprint. I've seen one of the examples of this, some of the oldest in the country, at the Arnold Arboretum at Harvard's campus. And I like to tell people I went to Harvard, by the way. I got a t-shirt while I was there. This one is awesome. The older specimens are some of the oldest in the United States. These trees are upwards of 30 feet tall, and they only are about 10 to 12 feet wide. So very narrow columnar upright habit. I have a 15-foot tall Takasamense in my garden, and the footprint is only 3 to 4 feet wide, giving it a very narrow habit. I've seen people make selections of this and call it Morris columnar and things like that, but naturally the species of Acer pseudosanum subspecies Takasamense is very narrow. So that's the approach this tree wants to grow. So if you like japonicums, if you like pseudosanums, if you like weird species, this is a perfect way to add that splash of color, but in a more narrow footprint. Had to get this one on the list. I love the shape that it makes. I have it up next to my porch because I have good faith that it's not going to grow into the porch. It's got plenty of room, but it's not going to, even if it got 6, 7 foot wide, I've still got plenty of room there. Awesome small tree. The fall colors on this are just electric. That's one of the reasons it had to be on this list too. Oranges, reds, and yellows, but guys, this one's almost like on fire orange. It's probably one of my top fall color plants overall. Grafted onto Acer palmatum, so it's as closely related as many of the other species. Acer pseudosanum subspecies Tachycemense had to make my list as our most columnar species. All right, we've only got 2 more here on our top 5 columnar plants, guys, and you know this one. This one is a columnar treat. Everybody's got to have this one in your garden. If you're a maple collector, Twombly's Red Sentinel is one of the best red uprights you could be growing. This one is narrow, it's heat tolerant, it's got great color to it. This one has a cherry red fall color as well, more narrow than that Skeers Broom. You know, a 10-foot tall tree of Twombly's is typically only about 3, maybe 4 feet wide at max. I do recommend making sure this tree is grown in sunlight and making sure that you cut off suckers that are evolving into multi-branches down low when they're young. So you don't want to get multiple wide branches down low. That'll keep that tree focused on that center growth, and it really accentuates that overall habit. So you do want to prune out any of the wider shoots that get started. But just with a few small steps, you can keep this one as a very narrow footprint in the landscape. Again, full sun up to zone 8, exceptionally heat tolerant. This one has a really bold, bright red color in the spring, and it holds that late into the summer. So you might get some green in this in late July, early August, but even in a good bit of full sun in my garden, this one is still great red late into the summer, which is awesome. Probably my favorite red upright that's columnar. Coming in here at number 2, easy to put on the list, durable, fast growing, puts on over a foot of growth a year in that narrow footprint. Now I mentioned that about the shade. If you put these in a heavy shady spot, they do tend to want to spread out a little bit more looking for the light. So the sun is a little trick to this one for keeping it more narrow, and it can handle that full sun up to zone 8. All right, guys, we're all the way up to number 1. Many of you can guess it. It's a beast from the Far East. It's Sucasa Silhouette. Sucasa Silhouette, we love this one. Man, from our friends at Sucasa Maple Nursery, it's durable, it's fast growing, it's got great fall color, and it's one of the most columnar Japanese maples of them all. Sucasa Silhouette, selected by our friend Yanada Tanaka. Sucasa is actually the name of his father, so we had that kinship together that both of us and my brother, we named our nurseries a little bit after our father. MrMaple's a play on a nickname for my dad, so kind of cool that he took his dad's hobby and ran with it as well. Sucasa Maple, though, this might be their most famous introduction. You'll see Sucasa Silhouette used a lot in Japan as a street tree, and that speaks a lot to this thing's durability. The city of Hendersonville heard us talking about that, and they actually planted some of these downtown on Maple Street, guys. They are in full sun, near concrete, and they're just eating that up and doing great. Now, this tree is a green that's very narrow. A 10 to 12 foot tall tree is only going to have about a 3 to 4 foot imprint on width. Now, again, you want to grow this one in the sun, and you want to take out any large multi-branches that are occurring down low when they're younger. That'll continue to push that growth upward. It also picks up that growth rate, because if you keep all that growth going up, this one absolutely takes off. Now, not only is this going to be a beast in the sun, handle that extremely well, there's a great bright fire engine red fall color from this one. So you're going to get great interest on this one in the fall. I mean, there's one downtown and it's all in concrete. It's in the concrete jungle and it looks absolutely amazing. So many great uses for columnar Japanese maples. These are just 5 of my favorites, but you can really see the implications of these. This one's the one I've seen used in a formal English garden. They had a row of 4 and a row of 4 at the entranceway of their garden, and it really created that entranceway. You know, you walk through the spacing between the Sucasa Silhouettes. Eventually they'll be allowed to kind of almost touch, creating a screening narrow entranceway there. Absolutely amazing way to do it. Missy Galloway, even, I've seen her take multiple Sucasa Silhouettes to create a small wall and screen around. So you can really fill in with these and create that wall footprint without all that width, which is a fun way to grow Japanese maples and something you might not have thought about for Japanese maples. I hope you enjoyed this little look at top 5 columnar Japanese maples. If you don't see these on Mr. Maple, you can always sign up to get notified. We try to keep most of these in stock pretty frequently because we like them a lot, and they're great plants with multi-uses to them. Take care, God bless, and have a great day.